thousands of students blocking the roads, fighting and protesting against their own government.
1,000 Bangladeshi nationals gathered at the Bengal border.
500 Bangladeshis gathered on the other side.
The 15-year stronghold of the ruling party is turning into ashes.
Their Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been ousted from power. The army has taken over the country.
We have to live as refugees abroad for years.
This is the story of Bangladesh, a country once supposed to be the most successful economy of South Asia, but turned out to be a failure. But what exactly went wrong? Why is its government falling apart? And why are Hindus becoming a point of target in all this? For the past 2 months, the Bangladesh protests are all over the news, but this is not just a 2-month issue. The story started long back. After the partition of 1947, the Dominion of Pakistan was born. Now, if I ask you where Pakistan is, you'll automatically point out this region. But the Bangladesh we have right now was once used to be a part of Pakistan. When we got independence, the Dominion of Pakistan was consisted of 2 geographically separated regions, East Pakistan and West Pakistan, whereas the whole India lies in the middle. Even though both the areas were Muslim dominated, the political power was concentrated in the West. So the East Pakistan was always suppressed economically as well as culturally. Tired of being ignored in their own country, the East Pakistanis started taking political control, which led to a civil war. They wanted freedom from Pakistan. To suppress the civil war and regain control over the region, the Pakistani army attacked East Pakistan. Thousands of people were killed, houses were burnt, women were raped. Every corner of East Pakistan was covered in blood. In this situation, millions of East Pakistani people flooded the East provinces of India. They started entering India illegally to escape the war. But India can't afford to take millions of refugees. So to pacify the situation, India waged war against the West Pakistan in support of East Pakistan, that is Bangladesh. This Indo-Pakistani War of 1971 ended with 93,000 Pakistani soldiers surrendering to India and the birth of an independent Bangladesh. India literally fought a war and got Bangladesh freedom. But the leader of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was in Pakistan prison and he was sentenced to death. Now the independent Bangladesh is leaderless. So to get him back alive, India gave back all those 93,000 Pakistani soldiers without getting anything else in return. Imagine the miles India went to support Bangladesh. Now they got independence, they got their leader back. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman of Awami League Party took over politics and became the first Prime Minister of Bangladesh. This freedom was hard earned by Bangladesh as well as by India. So to honor the struggle and martyrdom of the freedom fighters, PM Sheikh Mujibur Rahman introduced a quota system. This quota system stated reservation of jobs in the public and civil services, 30% for freedom fighters, 10% for the women who faced atrocities during the struggle, and 40% for other minorities and backward communities, which means that now 80% of the total seats were to be given on the basis of reservation, and this is how the system started to operate. Then on 15th August 1975, Prime Minister Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated during a military coup, and his daughter Sheikh Hasina took over her father's position and his legacy. After Mujibur Rahman's death, the quota system was amended a number of times, and in the following years, not only the freedom fighters but their next 2 generations were also included to benefit from this quota. With the changes, now the reservation totaled up to 56% of the jobs, out of which 30% was reserved for the freedom fighters and their families, 10% for women, 10% for people from underdeveloped districts, 5% for indigenous communities, and 1% for the differently able people. Now the bigger problem was that major private sector jobs depended on the textile industry, which was stuck on low wages. Majority of the big fashion brands source their garments from Bangladesh, and it's always been a debate how they don't even pay the bare minimum to the workers of Bangladesh. So the majority of students were focused on government jobs.
See, Bangladesh has hundreds of students, hundreds of thousands of government jobs.
Protests against government job quotas.
Deadly clashes were witnessed as demonstrators opposing quotas for coveted government jobs.
But over the year, due to reservation, only 44% of the total jobs were given based on merit, and therefore worthy people were not getting the jobs. The students started questioning the quota system, but the government dismissed all their concerns. Sheikh Hasina wanted to continue the quota system as it was her father's legacy. It was her father who made the quota system. On 8th March 2018, the students filed a petition in High Court demanding justice, but the plea was rejected and the reservation continued. Then the opposition started to spread the word that Sheikh Hasina's government is using this quota system for their own advantage and benefiting their followers and supporters to hold up these positions so that nobody could destroy their power. This slowly built up frustration inside the youth of Bangladesh and boiled up their anger. And one day, this anger bursted out like a volcano. Students stopped attending classes, caused a widespread road blockage, and hacked government websites demanding a quota reform. After a lot of resistance, when the situation got out of control, the government finally abolished the quota system in 2018 and the protesters' demands were fulfilled. But the story did not end here. In 2021, many relatives of the freedom fighters filed a petition in court questioning the government's decision of abolishing reservation. And on 5th June 2024, after numerous hearings, the High Court nullified the government's decision and reintroduced the quota system. This judgment of the High Court caused the start of protest once again, which spreaded across the country, and the case was moved to the Supreme Court. By the beginning of July, the protests were in full motion, but things took a tragic turn when Sheikh Hasina made an absurd comment which added fuel to the fire. During a press conference on July 14th, she was asked about the student protest, and she responded by saying, if the grandchildren of freedom fighters do not receive quota benefits, who would get it? The grandchildren of Rasakas? It reached people in a way that she called the protesters Rasakas. In Bangladesh, the term Rasaka is considered to be very disrespectful. It means a collaborator to the Pakistani army who betrayed his own country, that is Bangladesh. Not just that, her own cabinet ministers rubbed salt in the wound. These comments turned the protest into a violent clash between the students and the police. Over 300 people were severely wounded and many got killed. As the situation got worsened, the government imposed curfew and shoot-at-sight orders. The internet connection was cut off and a lot of students and opposition leaders got arrested. The whole Bangladesh was bathing in blood. On 21st July 2024, the Supreme Court delivered its verdict regarding the quota case. This consists of totally 7% of research jobs, out of which 5% is for the freedom fighters' families and 2% for other minorities and differently able people. The decision was in the youth's favor, but the curfew continued. Now they wanted to remove this curfew, and the number of deaths kept increasing by each passing day. Due to Sheikh Hasina's comments and her repressive measures, she was termed as a dictator. It was too late now. The students wanted justice on behalf of more than 300 people that were killed during the protest, and their demand was down with the dictator, which means she had to step down from the position of Prime Minister. Sheikh Hasina tried to pacify the people, but it all went waste. The violence kept increasing day by day. On 4th August, the protesters marched towards Dhaka and started a non-cooperation movement, but the government replied with force, and as a result of this, more than 100 people got killed. This created havoc and the riots ignited. Hospitals and government offices were attacked, and the Hindu minority was hugely targeted in these riots. So for her own safety and security, on the morning of 5th August, Sheikh Hasina reportedly resigned from a 15-year-long post and fled to India. The protesters broke into Prime Minister's residence and started vandalizing. The protest prisoners were also released along with the opposition party leaders, and that's how the government of Sheikh Hasina got collapsed. After this, numerous incidents of violence were reported in Bangladesh, mainly towards the Hindu minority. Now the question is, why were Hindus taken on the target in all this? What did they do wrong? According to the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, almost 300 houses were attacked and 15 to 20 Hindu temples were destroyed, and the reason behind this is not clear yet. But it's being said that many Hindus supported the Awami League party, which is seen as more secular compared to other parties. Now with Hasina gone, the extremists are looking to erase everything tied to her regime. Also, in time of lawlessness, the most vulnerables like Hindus are easy targets. Some are using this chaos to settle their old revenge, to grab lands, or to simply show their power. According to the data, in 52 districts, at least 205 attacks on members of minority communities, particularly on Hindus, have been recorded since Sheikh Hasina fled the country. In 1947, 30% of the Bangladesh population was Hindu. In 1971, it was reduced to approximately 20%, and now it stands at 9%. A Bangladeshi human rights group, Aino Salish Kendra, reported at least 3,679 attacks on Hindu community between January 2013 and September 2021, including vandalism as in targeted violence. The attack on minorities has always been a common affair in Bangladesh. Now with the politically unstable situation, it's no surprise that the majority is hunting down the minority. Now hundreds of Bangladeshi Hindus are standing on the Indian border to seek refuge in India. The situation is so bad that the newly sworn chief of Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus, said if the violence against the minorities doesn't stop, he will resign. To handle everything, the army chief of Bangladesh announced the creation of interim government until the political situation is stabilized. But with the opposition party rising to power, this is a matter of concern for India. But why? During Sheikh Hasina's period, she was an ally to India, a supporter of India in terms of terrorism, trade and other national affairs. Why? Because India literally gave 93,000 Pakistani soldiers in exchange for her father. India helped get Bangladesh freedom from Pakistan. But on the other hand, the opposition, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which may hold power after this chaos, is termed as anti-India. With party chief and former Prime Minister Khalid Zia's release, India's chances of being affected are getting high. During her previous term, she had a strained relationship with India. This would not only affect the peace and harmony, but also India's trade with Bangladesh, who is the biggest trade partner of India in South Asia. Along with the refugee situation on stake, it will keep getting difficult for India. Now everything depends on how these issues are going to be resolved and how the interim government is going to restore peace and harmony in their country. Till now, the situation has been out of control and more than 600 people got killed. But who exactly is responsible for this? Is it a political game or an emotional decision? And where it's going to take Bangladesh, and most importantly, how it's going to affect India, we'll have to wait and watch.